All right. We're going holding by the Book of Leviticus Chapter 17 again. Everyone holding by the Book of Leviticus Chapter 17. We are in the last verse. See if we finish it up today. Again, Book of Leviticus Chapter 17, verse 16. And the Torah says, again, V'im lo yichabis b'saroi, lo yirchat svenasa avoin. Right, so here, the Torah says, but if you don't wash your body, you don't wash clothes, your flesh, i.e., go to the mikveh, you shall bear the iniquity. Right? Because it's an obligation, right? If a person ate treif or ate nevela, right, animal that was either died by itself or not ritually slaughtered, right, or was a treifa, was either torn apart or had different signs, wasn't going to live for more than a year, i.e., let's say it had, it was missing a kidney, I don't know, had a hole in its brain, right, something like that. Anyway, we spoke why, in general, we don't have this level of holiness today. We don't have a temple of Jerusalem, so that level of holiness doesn't exist. Even going to the mikveh, you spent a month there, wouldn't help you, right? Essentially, it wouldn't help you because it doesn't take off that impurity. Only by a woman who gets a period, and then she goes to mikveh, become permissible to her husband. Okay, but in general, the other level or levels of impurity we don't have, right? Essentially, we don't have today, and we will not have them back until the Messiah comes. So the even Ezra over here says that what does the Torah say? The Torah here says if you don't wash your clothing, you don't go to the mikveh, right? You don't wash your flesh, so to speak, you will bear the iniquity. Now, the question is going to be, what does that mean? Right? What does it mean you're going to bear the iniquity? Now, Rashi over here says that if you did not go to the mikveh before entering the Mishkan or the Beit HaMikdash, right, when it would be built, or you ate something sacred, you're liable to be spiritually cut off, right, as we spoke about. But for the omission to wash his clothes, he's only liable for lashes. So whatever, we spoke about that last week. Why? What the difference in the punishment? What the difference in the punishment is. Now, if I didn't have Rashi over here, or really any of the commentaries, right, the question would be, what does this mean? Right? Again, the Torah here says, you shall bear the iniquity. Very good. Meaning, you bear the sin. Okay. Now, if you bear the sin, what does that mean? What level of punishment? So we said, very good, either get spiritually cut off, right, for one. Then we spoke about kares, being spiritually cut off, either a person dies young, i.e., before the age of 60, or their children die in their lifetime, or both. Both can essentially happen, where you lose your portion of the world to come, you get spiritually cut off. The other, so that is by being spiritually cut off. We mentioned before also that has to do with, let's say, if a person that's great Shabbos, right, get that penalty and spiritually cut off. Person ate chametz on Passover, ate any leavened product on Passover on purpose. Also, right, unless you repent. Unless there is repentance. Now, comes on the Torah and says, very good, you shall bear the iniquity. All right? Anyone's guess what that means? Rashi already says it's a difference between if a person's going to bear the sin, right? Right? If you bear the sin, one aspect of it means that what that Rashi here says, you don't go to the mikveh, you get spiritually cut off. Now, washing your clothes, okay, you're liable for lashes, right? Rabbinic lashes here. Now, again, if I didn't have Rashi or any other commentary, right, and the Karaites are going to have a problem here because it doesn't tell me what it is, right? Does not tell me what the payment is going to be, right? The Torah says, you shall bear the iniquity. Very good. Yeah. So what does that mean? It's okay. Rashi answered, but in general, I'm going to need interpretation here because Torah doesn't tell me. Yeah. Comes along Ibn Ezra, and he says, what does it mean to bear the iniquity? He says, forever, always. That doesn't sound good. Right? It doesn't sound good over here. In other words, if we're talking about being spiritually cut off, that's it. Right? In other words, once you're spiritually cut off, then seemingly there's no recourse. Right? Obviously there is repentance. Right? But he's saying that would be forever. And then he says the sin that a person's going to bear, what is the punishment, right, for the sin that he did? What's the sin he's going to have to bear? Right? What's the punishment over here? He says the punishment that God's going to put on him. Whatever that punishment is that God's going to put on him. Now, there are different punishments. You got corporal punishment. Corporal punishment, if there be a temple in Jerusalem and the person got warned for what they did, right? Skila, the worst of all corporal punishment. Rabbis tell us that is for being homosexual, practicing homosexuality, or desecrating Shabbos, right, on purpose. You get thrown off from a 3-story building, right? They basically pick you up by your loins, right? Throw you down. That doesn't kill you. By impact, then we always have, huge rock, aim for the heart. You know what they say, if the left one doesn't get to the right one will. So that's the most severe punishment. Then you have Sreifa, right? Sreifa meaning they would hold the person's mouth wide open and pour molten lead down their throat, right? That's, sounds pretty bad. And then you have Chereg and Hennig. The whole question, which order? One is getting choked to death, one is getting having your head cut off. But anyway, that seemingly is the order. Now, even that being the case, we don't have a temple today, right? And even if you tell me we had a temple today, the Mishnah in Makos, at the end of the first chapter of Makos, says that if the Sanhedrin killed once in 7 years or once or 70 years, it was considered a bloody court, right? Rabbi Akiva says, I've been around, no one would have ever been killed. Right? So even, let's say that's true. Even let's say nobody got killed. And they always found a way out not to kill someone. Okay. So then what's the point? What would be the point of telling me this punishment so severe if it never happened? What's the answer? You'll say to scare a person? Good. Right? That very well could be. Right? The whole point is to show the severity. The severity of what's being done, regardless of whether the punishment was ever enacted or not. Right? The punishment being enacted doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. The point is it's severe. Right? It's extremely severe over here. Very good. Now, even though we don't have the punishments today, right? Essentially because, again, we don't have a temple. Right? We don't have a temple in Jerusalem. Very good. Now, it is brought down that even if punishments don't exist, doesn't mean today that we can't see it in action. Now you're going to say, what do you mean? Even though, according to the Torah, the way it was done may not be done today, okay. But many would say that these corporal punishments still exist, right? What do you mean? Well, what's the case? So, punishment for being homosexual is what? Is skila, right? Literally being thrown off 3-story building, basically getting crushed. So what is that death? What does that death represent? Impact. Now, someone died head-on collision. That's impact. Or any other case where someone may have died because of impact. Now, the only problem is, even if that's true, and that's a similar thing, but nobody can say, and no one ever should say, well, this person died, head-on collision, they must have deserved skila. They must have deserved death penalty by stoning over impact. Or let's say, God forbid, someone's killed in a fire. Yeah, or there's stories people got in a car accident and the car exploded. Right? Yeah, both. You have impact, right? And you have, what do you call it? And you have sreifa, being burnt. Or God forbid, someone drowns. Right? Suffocation. Right? So that's chenek, that's being choked. Now again, even if, according to what the Torah says, and what the rabbis bring out on the most severe death penalty, even if that doesn't exist, right, according to the way it was done before, it doesn't exist now. Now, even if we're going to say that's true, right, we'll just take it to its natural conclusion here. Even if we're going to say that the way it was done before, not done today, good. But if you're going to say that still, you have something that's similar, i.e., impact, being burnt, being choked. So that is a similar thing. So it's very easy to say that someone dies in such a way, God forbids. Who says it's not from that? We're not bold enough to say that's the reason. Nobody knows. Nobody knows what's going on in Hashem's mind. And there are horrific stories. Horrific stories. People die in fires. People die drowning. People die, by impact. We say every year, Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. And the Unasan Soikev, who by fire, who by water. Yeah? Who's going to be rich, who's going to be poor. Or who's going to die, essentially. In different ways. Because we know people today, went through Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. We know there are people no longer with us. That died last year, or died recently. Yeah? So, that's the only guarantee in life besides taxes, death. How a person dies, nobody knows. The only thing is that, this should shake us up. Definitely should shake us up, but we can't say that's the reason. Oh, they must have been liable for this. Oh, they must have been liable for that. Nobody knows. Still a severe thing, right? We'll go back to a year ago, October 7th. People will say, look at those people got killed in a horrific way. So they're going to say, they desecrated Shabbos, desecrated the festival. True. So they had it coming. Okay, but then there are little babies there. Burned and who knows what. Right? So that you can't say, that was the case. Because they're not punishable. Remember, someone's only punishable if they're over the age. Either over the age of 12 in a day for a girl, 13 in a day for a boy, or up to the age of 20. So if it's a child, it's not a decree of death on the child. It has to be whatever the soul has to go through. Okay. But everybody says, or I shouldn't say everybody. Some people were saying that, look, they were there desecrating Shabbos. They were there desecrating the festival. So obviously they had it coming. Now let's understand. A decree like that is made on Rosh Hashanah. So if the decree is made on Rosh Hashanah, that decree can be uprooted through prayer, charity. Repentance. That can uproot a bad decree. Okay. Now, no one's going to say what these people did was good. Nobody's going to say that by any stretch. But the decree was already made. Since the decree was already made, you see, it didn't get uprooted. And you see, it had to happen. But no one can say, no one can say, well, because of what they did, where they were at that time, that was a decree. Not true. That's not true. How do I know it's not true? Because a decree was made on everybody on Rosh Hashanah. You have the opportunity to uproot a bad decree up until Yom Kippur, right? Many say you still have the last time till Hoshana Rabbah, right? To the last day of Sukkot. Others are going to say even till Hanukkah. Even till Hanukkah, you have the opportunity to uproot a bad decree. But you see that decree was already made. Was it made in previous years? How do I know? Because it didn't happen. If it was made in previous years, God said, okay, but he uprooted it. If it was made. Now, again, I'm not, privy to God's information here. But from what we do know, that decree was made on Rosh Hashanah. Now, it's a horrific decree. And God had to gather all these people together to put them in one place. That's pretty amazing. Some people who were supposed to be there weren't there. Other people who weren't supposed to be there were there, let's say. So God gathered the people there for a reason. Again, not everyone died from it, but he gathered everybody there who was liable for death penalty. He took care of them. Again, it's horrific. Nobody's saying not, right? From a Torah perspective, though, nobody, and no Torah giant, nobody came out and said that's the reason. It was a divine decree. Everybody said the same thing. Everyone agrees that what was going on there wasn't good. No question. They're going to say, Tino Shanishba, they didn't know anything. They didn't know any better. They grew up as a potato farmer in Idaho, right? No offense, anyone's a potato farmer grew up in Idaho, right? These Israelis knew nothing from nothing. Most of them. Knew nothing from nothing. Say it's not their fault. Not their fault, okay. But even if you tell me, right? Even if you tell me it's not their fault, what do I have? I have a divine decree. That divine decree, for whatever reason, was not uprooted. Now, the divine decree was not uprooted, then it got carried out. That divine decree, as bad as it was, right? That did not get uprooted. But that divine decree was made on Rosh Hashanah. Make no mistake. It was made on Rosh Hashanah. It wasn't made that day. God knew, they're going to go there, so I'm going to zap them all. No. That divine decree was already made. Now, granted, regardless of what they know or what they don't know, what they did was not good. Right? But say, who are you to judge? The Torah's a judge. The Torah says you don't desecrate Shabbos. The Torah says you don't desecrate festivals. And the Torah says, for goodness sakes, don't put up a Buddha somewhere. It's idolatry. Even if they're not worshiping it. So all these things put together, and everything else, who knows what else was going on, okay, that did not help the situation. Good. But that was not the nail in the coffin. No pun intended. That was not the nail in the coffin. The nail in the coffin was Rosh Hashanah. That was the nail in the coffin. Now, they didn't have enough merit or any merit or whatever in order to uproot that. So God allowed it to happen. But he gathered everyone together. So again, nobody, no Torah giant, nobody said that's the reason. Right? That's the reason that it happened. Now, again, everybody agrees. Everybody agrees what went on there and the desecration and all that was not good. Everybody agrees. Right? Right? Everybody agrees. So even if everybody agrees, there was still not enough merit to overcome it. But if you see people under the age get murdered and whatnot, whatever happens, born disformed, born mentally challenged, who knows what, it's not a punishment for them because they're underage. Right? People say, oh, it's a punishment. It's not a punishment. Punishment for the soul, not for the body. Right? Not even punishment for the parents, per se. They're the ones that carry such a child, okay. But that soul had to come into the world. And that soul had to suffer, go through whatever it has to. Because that's what God decreed. 100% that's what God decreed. So yeah, it's tragic. No question. But that divine decree was made. And it was made on Rosh Hashanah. And that doesn't change. Right? It could have changed, let's say better. Could have changed. But it didn't. Why didn't it change? So then you have to ask God. Then you have to ask him. Right? Why he made such a horrific decree? Are there any number of reasons why? It's not, not for us to try and figure out. It's a horrific decree. Any pogrom is a horrific decree. Question is, do we learn anything from it? One thing, mighty Israeli army didn't see it coming. Whatever reason, didn't see it coming. Heads be rolling. Will be for sure. When the dust settles. A lot of people ain't gonna have jobs in the army if they didn't get already demoted already. Right? But they didn't want to discuss anything until after the fact, till they finished mopping up in Gaza. Okay. But, just like, what happened during the 6-Day War also. Plenty of books written after the fact. Well after the fact. Not going to be done now. So, not going to make an whole expose on exactly what happened while you're still going through it. Right? So, you got to give it some time. But at the end of the day, any of these things, whether it happens here, it happens other places, these are divine decrees. These are wake-up calls. Rabbi would say, why do people die young and old? Because if everyone died the same age, no one would repent. There'd be no repentance. It's a wake-up call. It's a serious wake-up call. I heard a number of rabbis say, as time went on after, how much within the year did a person change? Did they pray differently? Did they do anything differently? Or did they just shrug and say, what can I do? Terrible thing. Yeah, we say Tehillim. We say Psalms to the ones are still there. Captain's still there. And then you get the question, well, I don't live in Israel. That's all I can do. Right? But obviously, comment made by someone doesn't know the power of prayer. Prayer never goes to waste. We don't always see the end result that we want per se, but never goes to waste. But prayer is extremely powerful. All right? Oh, all I can do is pray. There's a lot to do in prayer. Tremendous amount to do in prayer. Right? Even if you're not on the front line, even if you can't do anything. If you don't make money to the army because they need, what do you call it? They, lacking, materials, different things. Okay, can I do that if a person can do that? But just because you're not here doesn't mean prayer's a waste. Doesn't mean, it just doesn't do anything. Not true. Gotta be noisy, gotta take on the yoke of your friends, your people. You gotta feel the pain. But how many people changed? There's stories of great people during the Holocaust, knowing what was going on. They refused to sleep in a bed. Or less pillows, less comforts. How many people even did that?
Amen.
How many people did that? You gotta feel. Gotta have the hearts. Can't be being the same people we are. Because essentially it shows you don't care, but you gotta say, what should I do? What am I supposed to do? Supposed to take stock. And the reason you're supposed to take stock is because these things shouldn't happen. They shouldn't happen to Jewish people. You see, over and over. We don't get the message. This is what happens. This is exactly what happens. And it's consistent. It's very consistent. It's only the Jewish people get whacked around like this. No other nation. It's only the curse of Ham, okay? Right? That, Noah cursed, his sons. So you see, from there, Africa is cursed. Okay. Yeah. But even so, nobody has been punished more than Jews. Nobody. No offense to anyone of African descent. It's not even close. Not even close. Right? Here, someone asks, okay, right? How do you remove generational curses? Who says you have generational curses? If let's say a person is born black. Yeah, let's say. So you got the curse of Ham. Does that mean no individual can overcome that curse? No, it doesn't mean that. It means in general. But you see, people have been able to overcome it. People have been able to overcome it. It's a general thing. I mean, you look at Africa, people say this is racist, okay. But you look at the entire continent, famine, wars. What's Africa done for the world? Say, they were colonized, however you say it. They were enslaved. Okay, true. Let me ask, after these, the French were thrown out, the English were thrown out, other nations thrown out, how long would it take? Right? How long would it take for a nation to get back on its feet after that? 100 years? 50 years? 200 years? How many years would it take? I'm open, I'm open for suggestions. I don't think it should last as long as it has. According to nature. Talking about according to nature. And you still got the same things going on. Right? Except in a few places. You still have, a problem with famine. You still have a problem with weather. Yeah, droughts. And war. That's the most important thing. War. Totally decimated the entire continent. The entire continent. Decimated. So, it's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing to think about it that every nation's had their day. time of exploration. Portugal, considered like a world power then, in exploration. I mean, Portugal's really nothing today, right? Yeah, you got Italy, you got some other places, but every nation seemingly has had their day. England's had their day. France has had their day. Germany's had their day. What about Australia? I don't know if, cool Australia over here. They haven't really done much in the world either. But okay, you have nations that have had their day. And continents that have been strong. Some stronger, some weaker, ups, downs, whatever. That continent's always been done. Always. Now, even if you tell me they were oppressed, even if you tell me they were enslaved, when all that stopped, should have been rehabilitation at some level over some years. I'm willing to give, I'm really to cut some slack. 100 years, 150 years. And even people that left, so they have all kinds of issues. I get it. But every nation seems to be okay except for them. So, to fix that curse, that's forever. If you wouldn't have told me, Victor Miller said this many years ago, to call him a racist also, God forbid. But he said it doesn't make sense logically in this bigger scheme of things in the world. They got good raw materials. Other things, the place has been a wipeout. It's been an absolute disaster. And it's carried over. Now, some individuals may be able to overcome that somehow. Right? They've been able to overcome it. The vast majority not. So again, tell me, they're putting ghettos. You tell me, bad education, bad this, bad that. Okay. It's all true. It may all be true. But you don't see that in any other group. And you give all kinds of reasons. All kinds of logical reasons. But at some point, brother got to pull up his pants, and say, listen, this shouldn't be. We got to try and fix it, but the system perpetuates itself. Okay? It's true. Not denying it's true. But don't you think at some point should change? I would think. Pure logic should change. Yeah, so the mentality issue, there are other issues. Good. But if I wouldn't know what the Torah says, that Noah cursed, his son, right? And the curse that went with it, I wouldn't have any logical reason whatsoever to say anything, what's gone on in that continent in general, and what's happened to them. No logic. You can bring in reason, slavery, colonialism, other things. Okay, but how much time do you give it? How much time? Still saying it's only been, maybe 100 years, 150 years. Maybe even less. Okay. Yeah. But how much time you want to give it? Because what do you expect? The way they were treated in this set? I get it. But according to pure logic, if I don't know anything else, you want to tell me the whole continent's going to be ravaged? Ravaged by war? Ravaged by famine? Ravaged by weather? Doesn't even in the Far East, you get all kinds of, crazy things going on with weather. Typhoons, tsunamis, other things, one great rabbi once explained to me, because that's a place where it's full of idolatry. Okay, that I could hear. That I could hear. So they get the brunt of it. A lot of these things happen in the Far East. Okay. But they're on the map. Productive in society. Countries not floundering. Again, everything being equal, sometimes better, sometimes not, whatever it is. Countries go up and down, recessions, not recessions, prosperity, not prosperity. Okay. But even though it's full of idolatry, and God hates, two things God hates most is idolatry and immorality. No question about it. So they get a dose of all these other things, all these quote unquote natural disasters. What of them happen there? Earthquakes, forgot about earthquakes. right? Got earthquakes there also. So proportionally, they get a lot more. Now the reason is why. According to the Torah, why? Why should that be? Right? So again, this great rabbi once said to me, because that's where the greatest amount of impurity is, i.e., idolatry. Idolatry, sorcery, right? Which which begs the question that Abraham gave to the offspring of Keturah. What did he give them? He gave them gifts. What were the gifts that he gave him? Right? He gave them names of tumah, right? Names of impurity, spiritual names of impurity. And he sends them to the east. Where's the east as we know it? The Far East. That's where it is. So the greatest amount of sorcery, as we understand it, is where? In the Far East. That's not by mistake. Right? Now, the question everyone could ask is very good. If that's true, why did Abraham give it to them? He gave everything spiritually to Yitzchak. Very good. The Rebbe has an answer, and he'll say that he wanted to separate these people from ever being part of the Jewish people, so he gave them these impure names, whatever, gave them this sorcery and said, go away, just go to the east, like go far away. So they would never mix with the Jewish people, never have influence, nothing, totally separate. They'll go their way, we go our way, and that's it. Okay. Right? That's his answer. Now, there's a question, though. Even if that's true, why put sorcery out there in such a strong way? Because anyone can tap into it. You don't have to be, on a high spiritual level at all. All you have to do is not to say certain incantations. You can have power. Control spiritual forces. It's forbidden for a Jew or a non-Jew. Right? But God put it out there. So even though Murphy would say it's a good thing, separate, what's going to be the Jewish people and everybody else, very good. That's totally going to separate them. I get it. I give it to them. Why put it out there? He gave an answer. Okay, but I'm asking, why put it out there? Not just for them, for others to tap in. That, so to speak, weakens God's power. How's that weaken God's power? Nothing weakens God's power. Right? God is absolute. God is infinite. Right? Someone here asked, I'll just throw in this question as well, even though I've answered it many times. Right? I've answered it many times. Someone says, Chabad rabbi said, God needs you. Right? So what's the simple answer? God doesn't need us. For sure, he doesn't need us. Now, I have heard people say, that according to Kabbalistic literature and Kabbalah, right, and Hasidus even, that there is some aspect of what God says he needs us, that we help him in creation. I don't want to go to Webster's fifth definition. So that being said, what does sorcery do? It puts power in the hands of a person that takes God out of the world. Now, is that true? Is it possible to take God out of the world? No. God runs the world. Someone's going to say in the book of Deuteronomy, it says, we're living in a world of Hester B'toch Hester Ponim. We're living in a world of hiddenness. Within hiddenness, very good. So we can't see God's presence here. And even Moses himself, he asked God, I want to see you face to face. God said, no one can see my face and live. You can only see me from hindsight. You can only understand me in what? In hindsight. Can't see me face to face. You can only understand me maybe afterwards. Maybe. But what does sorcery and these things do? Just like Amalek, it brings doubt to the world. Right? No belief in supernatural. Can God's power be weakened? Let's ask the question before I get tarred and feathered here. Right? Can God be weakened in this world? No. God is absolute power. We don't see it. It's hidden from us. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And nothing has power outside of God because God created it. By definition. Go back and read Duties of the Heart, right at the very beginning, right? In the gate of God's unity, which no one ever reads because it's very complex. It says over there exactly what we said. God has no need. Right? And he proves beyond the shadow of a doubt there's only one God. Right? There's only one God, can't be multiple gods. But what's the point over there? One of the points is that what does he say? He says that if God, it says God created the heaven and the earth. God said he created the heaven and the earth. If he created the heaven and the earth, that means he created everything in this world, in the physical world. He created everything in the spiritual world. Now, by definition, if God created it, right? Spiritual forces. That's why, one of the reasons why you can't have a fallen angel here, right? Because if God created everything in both worlds, how is it possible that something that he created has more power than him? Or let's say better, that can have power outside of him. If a person, like I'm sitting at a table here, no one can see, but I'm sitting here at a table. Obviously, the table is made by someone. Is anyone really going to think the table came by itself? The table's got its own power? No one's going to think that. God created spiritual forces for whatever reason, right? Read the book Derech Hashem. He brings it down. The Ramchal explains it there. Right? Heavenly forces, malachim, angels, are messengers. So God uses them for whatever he wants. They're messengers. Now we saw when you have three Arabs disguised as angels, they come, three of them for three different things. One to heal him, one to tell Sarah she's going to have a child, the other overthrows Saddam. So what do you see? An angel can't multitask. Angels only do one thing. And then they go back and God tells them to do something else. Why? Because that's what God does. He's got Harbe Shluchim L'Makom. God's got a lot of messengers. Now, let's ask a fundamental question while we're on this topic. If God made everything, the heaven and the earth, that's what the Torah says. God created the heaven and the earth. Everything in the heavens, everything in the earth. So what does it mean he created everything in the heavens? It means he created even spiritual forces. So I'll ask you the $1 million question. And the $1 million question, see, it sounds better than pounds, even though pounds worth more than $1 today. Doesn't matter, right? But that's the $1 million question, and that is, if God created the heaven and the earth, and he created everything in both, in the spiritual world as well, how can anything in the spiritual world have any power or do anything that's not subservient to God himself? Right? By definition, God created it. Is it possible, we'll get very deep here, is it possible for God to create something he has no control over? No. Philosophers have been debating this issue for, throughout the millennium. Can God make a rock so big he can't throw it? No. I don't know what they've been debating for thousands of years, right? Kind of a stupid question. Because God's infinite. He's not limited, right? God is not limited he's not limited by time or space. We are limited. God is not. Now, spiritual forces are also limited. Maybe not by space, but by time. So how can something that is limited in general, how can anyone think it's got more power than God? Now, what's a simple answer out of this that some people would say? They'll say, God's too lofty for this world. What's God busy doing? He's got to, keep the earth on the same axis. He's got to make sure we don't get incinerated or get frozen. And he's busy keeping, taking care of global warming and everything else in the universe. Why should he worry about us and what's going on? So what does he do? He's got lackeys. God has lackeys. So let them deal with it. You let them deal with it. As if to say, God's in charge. Nobody denies that. God's in charge. But he's got other powers that do their thing. These other forces. Let's say it better. These other forces do this, do that, do the other thing. But how can they do it without, but God's really in charge. And so did God disappeared and he lets them do what they want. A lot of people make this mistake. Pharaoh made this mistake. Others made the mistake. Yeah? That means God is limited. That means, God forbid, he's not in control. Goes against what everybody says. Look at the Rambam, the Ramban, others. God is absolute. Now, if God is absolute, that means, by definition, he has no needs. The Ramchal brings that in the Path of the Just in his introduction. Says it, I think, similarly in Derech Hashem, in the way of God as well. He says God wants to be a meitiv, wants to give of his goodness to this world. So what did he do? Created the world to put man in it. Yeah, so if he created the world to put man in it, very good. Why did God do it? God did it for the sake of man. Wanted man to benefit from this world. Very good. That mean God's getting benefit? No. Why not? Very simple. God cannot create the world for himself. Why not? Because according to the first principle of Maimonides, the Rambam, and the 13 principles of faith, God has no needs. God is absolute. 100%, he's absolute. So if he's absolute, he has no needs. He cares if I sing and praise to him? No. Does he need me to? No. What am I going to say? God, those beautiful rings, Saturn. Thank you very much. All right, you got to say Jupiter, this, that. He brings rain, he brings snow, he brings the winter, he brings summer. Everything's great. God's like, thank you very much. He needs that? No. He doesn't need that. It gives me the ability to pray to him. But he doesn't need me. So now, get into this whole controversy, which we've discussed ad nauseum, but I'll just entertain the possibility now that someone here brings it up, right? And that is, right, a Chabad rabbi is going to say God needs us. So we've heard this already. This isn't anything new. Yeah? Right? They would also agree, whoever says it also agrees that the mainstream idea is he doesn't need us, he has no needs. Everyone agrees. They can't disagree with that. They can't disagree with that. Now, I've seen people answer up and say, according to Hasidus, according to Kabbalah, there are certain aspects where we'd say we help God. How can we help God? I just saw something earlier. Someone said something like that. But it's not that we're helping him. He doesn't need our help. Right? But with mankind, we're able to help in creation. Doesn't mean he needs it. But I'll ask a different question with all this. See, someone wants to say something that's controversial. To me, it doesn't really matter. Right? If they have a base. If they have the base to say it. And, it's not that they're the only ones that say it. Okay. I don't have an issue with that. Again, if it goes against what the Torah says, and everyone disagrees, that's a problem. Right? So Chabad rabbi, he goes around saying, punishment now, come on, everything's getting burned. Everything we're getting burned, that's a problem to say such a thing. Do I understand how the soul's getting burned? No. But the soul feels it. How does the soul feel it? It's Kabbalah, I don't know. However the soul feels it, the soul feels the pain. Part of what Ganem is the fact the person feels embarrassed because you're a pure soul. You understand everything that's going on. You see your life flash before your eyes. You're totally embarrassed. How a soul gets totally embarrassed, I don't know. But they feel it. Just like a person had their hand in the cookie jar and they get caught, that's what they feel. Of all the terrible things they've done in that world. Right? They feel it. How they feel it? Good question. Right? Now I get into metaphysics, now I get into Kabbalah. Right? We're not going there. But they feel it. They for sure feel it. People that out-of-body experience would explain what it is. They heard these souls screaming and in pain and different things. Right? No one's ever been in that world come back. Some people have. and not a body experience. Okay, so how do you explain that? What they saw, what they experienced. You're going to poo-poo it and say they're all crazy? Maybe. But even if we can't imagine what that is, remember, this is metaphorical here. Not metaphorical, in the sense that something that, trying to put in our own language. Now, I would agree. How can a soul feel the power of fire? Good question. That's a good question. Yeah. But to say it doesn't feel it, or to say there's no reward and punishment, that's a problem. That is a problem. That goes against everything the Torah says. And people say God loves everyone. Not true. Those are not true. As King David says in the book of Psalms, I love those that love you. I fight against those that hate you. So those that hate God, God loves them? No. He has to punish them. Does God want to punish them? No. It's like a father has to punish a child, right? Just like the angels want to sing Shira, they want to sing praise to God when the Egyptians are drowning. God says, how can you want to sing when my creation is drowning? When you're drowning them. Don't they deserve to be drowned? Everyone agrees. They deserve to be punished. And they deserve to seriously be punished. So there's the question, are we happy at the downfall of our enemies or not? Okay, but God can do both. God can say, I feel bad my creation's drowning, and still at the same time punish them. Mankind can't do that. We can't have both emotions at the same time. There is a case where, let's say, a parent died, right? A parent died, and they left over an inheritance. So you have to make the blessing, Baruch Diana Emet, God the true judge. But at the same time, if you know you're getting that money, or that money hits your bank account, you make the blessing of a Tova Meitiv or Shechianu, a Thanksgiving prayer. Two opposite things going on at the same time. Good. Doesn't matter. Person dies, you're obligated to mourn for. Mother, father, sister, brother, God forbid, a child or a spouse. Obligation 100% before they're buried. You have to make the blessing, Baruch Dayan Emet. God is the true judge. Or if you know, you're getting a lot of money. Right? So you don't make the blessing until, either you know for sure it hits your account. Now, that could be later. Okay. Two totally contradictory things, seemingly. Right? But again, there are different times, doesn't matter. Right? But the point is, God can have both emotions at the exact same time. The exact same time. So what bothers me from this whole thing, I see there are a lot of other questions, I will deal with them. What bothers me is the mainstream, halacha is God has no need. Period. Even the ones that say he may need us for this and go into Kabbalah and Hasidus and all that, they also agree. They don't deny that. They can't deny that. That 100% is heresy if you deny that. But they also want to say God needs us. So other people want to defend him and say, according to Kabbalah and Hasidus, you have sources to say such a thing. And therefore you can't call him a heretic. If he says some, things against reward and punishment, that's a problem. That's also a problem. But again, even if that's true, yeah, person wants to be controversial. Okay, depends what they're saying. Person's got to be sensitive also. Person also has to be sensitive. Certain things about the Holocaust I would never say, even if they were true. Why? Because it takes away from what happened. Right? One thing would be, let's say if it's true, not going to say it's not, let's say it's true, that, he had 80% intermarriage in Berlin, in Germany. They had assimilation running rampant. Now, if we were to say a lot of people that were killed during the Holocaust, they weren't Jews. They were non-Jews, according to Jewish law. Let's say half. let's say half, right? I don't know what the stats are. It doesn't matter, right? Well, let's say a little more than half were actually Jewish. Yeah, if assimilation and intermarriage was so strong, that could be true. That could be true. But see, that belittles the name of the Holocaust. Even if it is true. Right? So certain things I would say, you got to be real careful. You have to be real careful because people will take offense to that. Now, if you can prove it black and white and say, listen, I got facts to back it up, and that's the way it looks, let's say 100% it's true. Let's just say, yeah. If a person was speaking about the Holocaust, would they mention that? It belittles the Holocaust. You got to say, what's the difference? 3 million, 6 million. That's not even the point. It's still a significant amount, no matter how many. Yeah, even if that's true. Even if it's true. Yeah. So no. Yeah. Someone got cremated for saying such a thing, no pun intended. They got cremated for saying it. Yeah, they gotta be careful. Right? Even if it's true. Even if it's true, gotta have sensitivity. But again, could have been totally taken out of context also. Right? Which is probably the case. Right? Which is definitely probably the case. Still, you can have extra sensitivity. As well as someone saying, come on, this kid, 3 years old, is playing with a doll, a boy, and he came out to be homosexual. You think God's going to punish them? You think God's going to punish them? I know this person says the ultra Orthodox might be upset with me. Yeah, of course, because that's heresy. That's heresy. That goes against Leviticus chapter 18. We're going to get there. One day, getting there, getting closer. Yeah, that's going to happen. We're going to get there. You're going to say, but that person's not guilty. And what happened to him later? Why is he not guilty? What do you do with that verse? Just throw it out? What in the world you do with that verse? Ignore it? How do you ignore it? Say he's not guilty? Why not? He's guilty. You say, no, but he's born that way. Even from a little kid, it was pretty clear. Okay. So what? That means doesn't have to work on it? Doesn't. So that's their bias. That's the thing they have to work on a lot. Okay? And other people have other things to work on. What to say he's not going to get punished later? God's going to overlook that? That's a problem. That's a serious problem. Right? So, person's not saying that to be controversial. That's what they think. Like, God's not going to punish such a person in such a case. Because they were like that when they were a kid. So we'd say, in Hebrew, Asma, so. So that's the way he was. So what? What does that have to do with anything? We're not born a certain way. God may be put some things in our DNA that we're not in control of. Okay. That doesn't mean we should act on it. The person has more of this, less of that. More of this, less of that. Everyone has what they have. Because they're born that way. Okay. We're not talking about where you did other things, you took things on, societal issues, whatever. I'm not even talking about that. Let's say a person got an extra dose of that. Now, does that mean if they act on it, they're not punishable? Because you may be that way. Good. Right? What's God going to answer? We've been playing God, put on my funny George Burns glass, my funny mustache. What would we say? We would say, you're right. I gave you these character traits. I put these into your soul. Very good. I didn't tell you to act on it. But you're going to tell him, and you're going to say to God, come on, you gave me this. You gave me an extra dose of it or 3. So what do you expect? God says, you're right, but I want you to work on it. I want you to harness it. I want to use it in the right way. So we all have that. Anger being one of them, right? Not wanting to help others being another. Being cheap being another. Many things. I don't want to get up in the morning and pray. Got that also. Got a lot of bad genes. So we can easily complain after 120 years and say it's not fair. You made me that way. God says, good, I did. You're right. And? But it's too hard to fight. Oh, you could have fought it. God says, let me show you the next movie. Let me show you the other movie. Let me show you what's really going on. What you should have done. How you should have overcome it. A lot of different things. Very good. So you have certain biases. You have certain, what's the better word? You have certain dispositions. Okay. Granted. Even if that's true, God says, I created the world. Did I tell you to do that? Did I want you to do that? What's the answer? No. Of course I didn't want you to do that. Oh, but he wired you a certain way. Very good. So we're all wired a certain way. We're not in control. We're not in control of our parents, our siblings, our socioeconomic situation. A lot of things we're not in control. So a person can say, you made me that way. It's not fair. So what? Not a question of being fair. The question is, you got an extra dose of this or part or dose of that. Deal with it. You got to work on it. I didn't tell you to go crazy with it. Yeah, but it's very strong desire. Very good. So what? We got all kinds of lazy desires. Want to sit home and be a couch potato, watch TV desires. Waste our lives desires. There are plenty of bad desires. Like, let's say we didn't even do it to ourselves. Even better. Even better. What does God do? God says, you're right. I gave it to you, but I gave it to you to overcome. That's one of the things you have to overcome more than other people. Okay? But he can't use that as an excuse. Oh, he was that way since he was born, so therefore God's not going to punish him. Makesha. What in the world's a connection? You have a certain disposition. Very good. Who says you're given a disposition you can't handle? You're put in a position you can't handle. Not true. We may think we can't handle it. Okay. We may think that. Okay, think again. God says, I'm going to put you whatever position you're going to be in. I'm giving you the capability to overcome it. Oh, you tell me it's impossible. It's so hard. It's so painful. Maybe. But we believe it's not impossible. We have to believe God knows what he's doing. Even as painful it is to watch and to go through, whatever it may be. What's the point? The point is I got to work on things. And I'm giving this for a reason. What reason? Can't answer. Mentioned last night in Turkey Avos. Ethics for Our Fathers. I mentioned sometimes a parent has to watch a kid go through things, and you just have to watch. Nothing to do. You have to be there to help them, pick them up, whatever, but, certain things you just can't, you're not in control. You're not in control. And sometimes until, they hit rock bottom or they suffer, whatever, there's nothing to do. I mean, you can pray, you can try and do other things, but again, no guarantee for anything. Sometimes you have to sit there and watch it. Why? Can't answer. And there are terrible things go on in the world. Terrible things. And sometimes, that's part of parenting. Sometimes kid has to get flushed, or they have to go through all kinds of difficulty, or who knows what, for whatever reason. Until they know what's right, or if they don't, they may have to suffer in other ways. Now, why, again, a kid, not punishable. It's not the problem of the kid over here. It's underage. If the kid's over age, or at least up to the age of 20, still not punishable. But after that, they're liable. So you can say, what about what happened before? Good. So it happened before, they're not liable. Now what about now? It has repercussions, major repercussions. And sometimes there's nothing to do. Sometimes, you just have to watch it happen. You have to watch it unravel. We're going to say that's cruel and the system is crooked and all these things are true. May very well be true. What's the bottom line? What's the bottom line? Got to pray. That's all you can do, right? Sometimes that's all you can do, right? And you put your best foot forward. You try and do all kinds of things. It doesn't go. It doesn't mean you give up. I wouldn't say to give up, right? But at the same time, if the child's underage, that's what that soul has to go through. Now, don't ask me why. We don't know why. And it can have horrific repercussions. But if they're older, and you have to see, a child going through, difficult times. We can't cuddle them. They take responsibility. Things happen younger, older, this, that. It's hard to see. Bottom line is it's hard to see. Yeah. So again, removing generational curses. I don't know that people have generational curses. Shouldn't be generation, right? If you tell me, as we said at the beginning, if you tell me it has to do with being from Ham, right? And the person's black, let's say. So that curse, yeah, that seems to be eternal. Yeah, that's the way it sounds in general. But it doesn't mean individuals can't overcome it. Does not mean that. Right? In general, the whole place is a wipeout. The whole continent is a wipeout. Yeah. And seemingly till the end of days, that's the way it's going to be. Right? Wars, famine, terrible things going on. Nothing will good come out of that. Individuals, right? It would seem from the curse, even individuals can't get out of it. That's what it would seem like. Right? But if a person wants to go in the right path, so this would be a good question. Someone came from Ham, let's say, they convert to get rid of the curse, get rid of the curse. I'm not saying that's the reason to convert, but don't get me wrong on that, right? That's not the reason to convert per se, but that will take care of the curse. That for sure will take care of the curse, right? But even if a person was cursed, right? Let's say, what does the Gemara say? Gemara says, if you want to go in the right direction, God will help you. If you don't want to go in the right direction, God won't stop you. So if you want to go in the right direction, that curse could come off, even without conversion, in theory. Right? See how far it goes. Right? But if a person wants to try and overcome that, they have the power. God can help them. He can take it away. Right? So if it's not that, let's say it's not that. I don't know any other curses here, right? But let's say it's not that. Let's say, their generation, the family just, goes through hard times. Yeah. Again, an individual can break it through tshuva, through repentance, right? For wanting to go in the right direction. The only other curse of a family that I know, is a very strong curse is curse of the Kennedys, right? So I grew up in Boston, all about the Kennedys. What a seriously messed up family. Seriously messed up family starting at the top, right? Joe Kennedy, rabid anti-Semite. Rabid anti-Semite. Yeah, there's no question, different great rabbis cursed him or cursed his family for what he did against Jewish people. So I can't say, right? I definitely can't say, but you have to look at that family and say something is seriously messed up. From top to bottom, right? Daughter out of lobotomy, Chappaquiddick, Ted Kennedy, people died. I mean, crazy. What do you call it? What do you call it? 2 sons killed? Killed in cold blood. That you would say, well, there's a curse there. Yeah. That makes sense. Because the whole family totally messed up. So if you'd asked me, for a non-Jew in this non-Jewish family, yeah, that's how are you going to get rid of that curse? That's a good question. But I would say if somebody wanted to go in the right direction, even without conversion, maybe it takes away the curse. Maybe. But that family seriously messed up. You can't explain it naturally. So many crazy things happen. I mean, what are the odds you have so many kids that a parent's going to bury 2 kids 2 sons murdered, right? I don't even want to call what happened to JFK, conspiracy, whatever. Murdered, essentially murdered. Doesn't matter what you call it. Murdered. They were killed. You want to tell me there's logic in that? Like, what are the odds? Any other families throughout history? The average of, let's say, I don't know, 3 or 4 kids. And each one is one crazy thing happened to them, than the next. One happened, you tell me like they're insane, or different things, maybe. But this family seriously messed up. JFK Jr., what happened? He got what do you call it? Vertigo, right? It's in a plane, whatever, just that was it, crashed. So many different things. There's no logic there. There's absolutely no logic. That's a cursed family. Yeah, that I hear. But if any one of them, like, they're afraid of this curse, if they want to do the right thing and go in the right path, God can take it away from them. He can uproot it. Not necessarily on the entire family, maybe on them, on individuals. So I would say, even a person in, terrible situation, for a number of generations doesn't mean they're going to be affected by it. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But if they want to go in the right path, I would say, if they want to go in the right path, that curse should go away for themselves. Yeah, all the more so, if they convert. If they convert, they will take it away. That for sure will take it away. But I wouldn't tell anyone to convert for that reason. Right? So, if a person wants to go on the right path, yeah, that has the power. That has the power, a lot of repentance and a lot of prayer. That has the power to overcome it. Right? I don't know. Can I think of anything else? I don't know. I have to think about that. Definitely have to think about that. But that's what I would answer. Somebody says, man, Freeman not only said Hashem needs us, he also said, I didn't ask to be born. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, that's why I don't want to get into it. I said what I said. It keeps coming up. It's a moot point. I know the people that bash him all the time. Okay, they can bash him. I got better things to do. Better things to do with my time. Let them bash him. Let them bash him to high hell. So what? I don't need to bash him every second. But if it comes up, I'll deal with it, sort of. Right? But again, that goes against what we just said, by the way. You're born against Shua, you die against Shua. Right? The mission Pirkei Avos. What is that, a suggestion? Don't know. You're right. Said worse things. Again, even if what he said before, just on this topic, even if what he said that God needs us, even if there is proof, let's say, because some big people brought some proof that's not heresy. Yeah. According to Kabbalah and Hasidus, let's say. Who's holding by Kabbalah and Hasidus at that level? And why would you bring it up anyway? Why in the world would you bring it up? I understand, maybe it's good for ratings, maybe. Maybe it's good for ratings. But again, you want to come out against reward and punishment, that's a problem. You want to say it has to be born, that's also a problem. Right? But, again, even if it would be true, according to Kabbalah and Hasidus, let's say it's true. And that doesn't make him a heretic. Okay. Well, you're grasping at straws here. You're grasping at things you shouldn't even be discussing. Why are you discussing it in the first place? That's my question. You want to discuss it? All right, but you're going to open up a whole can of worms you don't necessarily want to open, and that's exactly what happened. Right? That's exactly what happened. And other things. Yeah. We're going to have to dwell on the mental gymnastics just to claim Hashem needs us, right? Tiny laundry list of other heresy. Okay, good. So other people can talk about it. What's the difference between Ashkenazi, Sephardim, and Mizrahi? Is it more than regional? Yeah, it is. For some things. You just have to understand, Ashkenazim and Sephardim, 99% of everything we agree on. There is, different customs and different things. The order of the prayers, is different. Certain things in Shabbos, maybe different, and some other things. So part of it, yeah, is regional. That is true. But again, there's difference. There's different way of looking at the world also, right? Some Ashkenazim and Sephardim will look at the world the same way. In the mitzvah to make money, right? That parnasa. And you learn a little bit also. Say it should be long-term learning, right? That's more, modern outlook. Mizrahi is more, is more Zionistic, right? They were more Zionistic. My Rebbe would still call, the leftists would call them Mizrahi, right? They formed this Mizrahi party about being secular Zionists, right? You can have religious Zionists also. They could be Ashkenazic or they could be Sephardic. Right? It doesn't really matter. Mizrahi normally refers to usually secular Zionists. A lot of it has to do with, you're right, it does have to do with regional. Where a person, grew up and what the customs are of that place. Right? So, but the majority of things between Ashkenazim and Sephardim, they agree. 100% they agree. Right? So yeah, that would be they all use the same Tanakh, yeah. Babylonian writing is relevant, sure. Right? It's relevant for everyone. Talmud's relevant for everybody. That was one knock, by the way, just against Hasidim. That at the very beginning there was a knock against them that the Nefesh Chaim, Rav Chaim of Volozhin, famous student of Vilna Gaon, blessed memory, in the fourth gate, writes in the gate of Torah. He says over there are people, he was knocking Hasidim because they were just starting out then, but it's very different today. You walk into a town, of a Hasidic town, let's say, couldn't find a Gemara at all. Couldn't find a set of Talmud anywhere. They were more interested in learning Mussar, in ethics, right? But that's not the case today, right? That's the reason Vilna Gaon and others came out against them, right? At that time, because they weren't learning Gemara. They weren't learning mainstream things that everyone learns. It's the whole base of what Torah is, right? Is how to understand what the Torah says. That was the knock against them. Today, it's not the case. Today, it's certainly not the case. Even if they want to sing and dance a little bit more and learn, and learn Mussar, everyone learns Mussar, right? Everyone learns ethics, but they're based in Gemara, not like the Hasidim of old. The knock against them was they didn't learn. They didn't learn Gemara. They learned, they spent most of the day learning Mussar. And if a person learns Mussar most of the day, okay, right? But you're not going to know very much. You know what the Mussar book says, very good. You know the backwards and forwards, but you won't know what the sources are. I.e. the source being the Gemara. So, but today that's not the case anyway. That's totally not the case. But, today Hasidim are, none of them are just learning Mussar. They're spending a good part of the day learning Gemara. No, like everybody else. Now, they have different way they dress, okay. Also have different, some different customs, okay, but as we said, 99%, everyone agrees. Right? Everyone agrees. Someone said that we've heard about a curse on the Arab nations. 3,000 years of power and then a great downfall. It wasn't a curse. They had a merit in the land of Israel. For Ishmael, when he was mild, when he had bris milah, circumcision, he added the age of 13. So because of the merit, the Zohar says he got 100 years dominance for each 100 years of each year that he did bris milah. So 100 times 13 is 1,300, which means that their level of dominance is pretty much up, right? It's pretty much up. So it's really 1,300 years, not 3,000, but that's the reason, right? That's the reason according to the Zohar, and eventually they're gonna crumble, but they're not going down in a whimper here. They, it's hard to imagine what the commentators say about the final war of Gog and Magog. That's going to be a fight, between Yishmael and Esau, right? I.e. the Muslims and the Western world. Before 9/11, it was hard to imagine that because they didn't have any power. They had no power at all. A bunch of nomads living in different places, but they had no power, no collective power. All of a sudden they get oil and other things, and the game changes. And not only that, but now, they're all over the world. They have they have significant minorities everywhere. All over Europe. Europe's a very scary place. Very, very scary place. They got significant minorities everywhere there. So, and they're fighting against the establishment. Yeah. A number of years ago, France was shut down for 3 weeks. Now, France, not a minor league, a minor country, right? Not third world country. I mean, minor league, but third world country. It took them 3 weeks to suppress it. 3 weeks. Yeah. They're going to be a thorn in our sides till the end of days. Right. But why are they so strong? Even though they're on the last legs, but why are they so strong? Why were they so strong? Because of that power of doing bris milah, circumcision. That is the reason. Now you see, interesting enough, now you see, the fact that, Syria fell. And, so now you see what Israel's done, not to get into politics, right? Knocked out Hezbollah fighting there, right? Because now, they got knocked around in Lebanon. So they got knocked around. Hamas is weak. And so who's Iran now supporting? They were supporting Syria for a long time, 15 years or 13 years, whatever it was, helping them, and now I got ransacked. Totally ransacked. So who are they helping now? The Houthis. Trying to send things through Houthis. So one good thing that happened, at least by Syria getting knocked out, is that they don't have a way to get arms through. Right? They have no way to push arms through to get to get it here or whatever. So that's a good thing. That's definitely a good thing. But yeah, they're in serious trouble. They are in serious trouble. They got knocked around. Hamas got knocked around. So they've been tremendously weakened. I'm not saying they're totally weak, right? But so the only ones left right now that try and do anything, or at least a little bit, are these Houthis, and like these Houthis are nothing also, but they're being fed through Iran. So yeah, Israel just bombed the heck out of them and some of their munition places, whatever. But whatever. Everyone else is in serious trouble. So so because of Ishmael, according to Kabbalah, they got 100 years for every year that he was circumcised. That's 1,300 years, which time is pretty much up. Time is pretty much up now. But that was the merit of circumcision. That's why they had such power. Somebody asked, let me see. One second. Yeah, all right. Is the entire Torah one long of God's name? Why? Why? A lot of times God's name's not mentioned. I mean, some places. Torah mentions God's name in a number of places, right? Uses, God's name of compassion, God's name of what do you call it? God's name of justice as well. It's not one long, it's one long story of what God wants for us, true. Right? That's what it is. All about the laws. Right? All about the laws. All about the laws that he gave us, what we're supposed to do. Right? So yeah, you want to say that, that's true. Right? And he gave us the book, gave it to Moses, passed down to us. Right? So that is one long story, what God wants, for the Jewish people. Someone asked, can pronounce able to avert a gezar din? No. Not that I know of. That should only help if you make a blessing in vain. Right? If you make a blessing in vain, that's bad. Right? That is bad even for non-Jews, I would say. In some ways. But if a person made a blessing they didn't need, right? You say Baruch Shem Kavod, you say blessed is God's the name of God and his kingdom shall last forever. Right? That should last forever. That's good. Right? That'll take it down because here you desecrated God's name. Now you're sanctifying his name. Right? By saying his name is great. So that fixes it up, but that has nothing to do with the Gezar Din. That is not that I know of. That has to do with uprooting a bad decree or a Gezar Din, as it is known. The struggle now between Erev Rav rabbis and kosher rabbis. Okay, yeah, people have been talking about it for a long time. People have been talking about it for a long time. Yeah, you got rogue rabbis out there claiming to be, claiming to, speaking God's name, and giving over Torah, yeah, they're good people to listen to, not good people to listen to, right? That that is true. So let the people bash them, bash them. I'll bash them when I need to. Is Australia part of England? I don't know, maybe. Maybe maybe that's true, and they were part of it and had their day also. Maybe. Australia, yeah. Someone asks, does the Arab Rav share the same roots of the soul with the Jewish people? Why not? Their soul is just corrupt. They corrupted their soul. Everybody's got a pure, clean slate. They weren't born the Arab Rav. No one's born evil. Everyone's given a clean slate, right? Everyone's created in God's image. Everyone's given a clean slate. If everyone's given, if everyone's given a clean slate, if everyone's given a clean slate, then no one's born that's evil, right? No one is born. No one is born. No one's born evil, so to speak. So therefore, no one can be born the Evra. They can become the Evra, right? I don't think there's any question. I don't think there's any question. They can become the Evra. They become the mixed multitude, but it doesn't mean they're born that way, per se. Does their soul come from the same place? Why wouldn't it? Why in the world wouldn't it? It all comes from the Kisei Kavod. Yeah, under God's heavenly throne, whatever that means. That's where every soul comes from. But no soul is bad. Everyone's got a job to do. Everyone's got what to do in this world. But no one's born that way. No, no one's born part of the Evra. No one's born a homosexual either. Or anything else. They're given character traits. Okay. Part of your DNA, very good. So the question is, do you use it for the right, for the good, or not? However a person uses it, but no one's born any specific way. Right? I mean, either you're born male or female, like that's it. Right? It used to be sometimes hard to tell, whatever, okay, but today it's not necessarily an issue. You don't have such an issue today. People say, come on, I was born like this, I feel like this, that doesn't matter. We're not talking about what a person feels. Right? But bottom line is everyone's born in the same slate. Now, people are given different DNA, right? Different things they have to work on. Okay. That's true. That 100% is true, right? But everyone's got a clean slate. So why would someone be born that way? No one's born that way. Same as it's for us, so we don't deceive ourselves to give thanks to Hashem. Okay. Someone says not giving blessing on things and foods is like first way of hacking into creation. I would say it's, if you don't give thanks, you're considered an ingrate. That's why a Jew has to make a blessing for something they eat, even if it's something very small. The reason is because you're considered a thief. You have to give thanks to where it comes from. Someone here says, the Book of Leviticus, it says, there's no eternal punishment for the transgression of a negative commandments, but for transgression of a positive commandment, there is eternal punishment. Okay. Yeah, let's say that's true. So what? That doesn't matter. Person get eternal punishment for anything. Why not? Why specifically this and not something like that? I don't know. I have to see what he says. Right? I have to see what he says inside. But even so, get eternal, who says you don't get eternal punishment? Maybe, a person get wiped out, not have a portion of the world to come, but who says God can't punish the soul forever? He can. Certainly can. Maybe they're born Shabbos breakers and adulterers. Who says? Who says they were born that way? Nobody's born that way. They can develop into that. Okay. Yeah. To somebody, if someone gets married, does that mean they have no desire for anyone of the opposite sex ever again? Doesn't mean that. So someone who's a philanderer, you think they were born that way? I don't think they were born that way. They might have been nurtured later, this, that, whatever, but they weren't born that way. They may have a desire stronger than other people. Okay. Maybe. If they don't find it, by their spouse, they go to somewhere else. Okay. So they got a problem. Yeah, but why do they have a problem? That's the question. Why do they have a problem? Could be things they did to themselves, made it their problem. Or let's say God gave a, 3 times extra dose of it. Okay. But God wanted them to use it the right way. They use it the wrong way. Okay. But no one's born a specific way. Right? God puts the DNA into all of us. Yeah. Our soul is made up of certain DNA. Very good. But who says he wants us to act on the negative parts of it? Who says? Okay, the eternal punishment. Okay. Seems we can start breaking the curse by loving Hashem, keeping His commandments. Yeah. If you go in the right path, you should be able to break it. Should be able to break it. I can't say 100%, but you should be able to break it. Yeah. Maybe certain curses you can't. I don't know. Right? Not 100% sure, but I would think if you go in the right path, you do what God wants. God will help you, so He'll help you break it. He'll help you break it. Someone says punishment of transgression of God's commandments is God withholding not to show anything good. Okay. Yeah, let me see other questions here. And the temple wise blessing answered not with the blessing, not an Amen. What if you're born into a cursed family? I answered that. Wasn't Esau born to be prophesied to be evils? Again, let's make one thing clear about Esau. The Chidah says, it's hard to understand this Chidah, but the Chidah says, or no, 300-400 years ago, maybe more, the Chidah says he's 1,000 times greater. 1,000 times greater than Yaakov. Now, what does that mean? Before Bar Mitzvah, you couldn't tell the difference. Esau was just as great as Yaakov in learning. Just as great. But what happened? He gave in to desire. Desire killed him. Right? Desire killed him. Right? And that's the Mishnah Ramon in Pirkei Avos that says that an evil eye, evil inclination, and hatred of other people doesn't say desire. Right? I quoted that wrong before. Doesn't say desire, but it says removes a person from this world. These things can destroy a person. Now, what destroyed Esau? Desire. Desire killed him. Right? It's one of the reasons his head was buried. His head was buried in Cave of the Patriarchs, not his body. Why his head? Because his head knew the right thing. Yeah, but his body didn't deserve to be buried there because of what it did, of all the transgressions. His head deserved. But even if you want to tell me, he's prophesied to be evil, okay. He's still got free choice. Everybody has free choice. So if everybody has free choice, even though Turner points out, is very inclined to the physical, right? Esau was very inclined to the physical, right? Pleasure, Rome, America, yeah, all that, very good. Who says he had to give in to it? He was inclined to it. We're inclined to do all kinds of things that are bad. You fill in the blank what they are. Yeah, whatever a bad thing is. We have this inclination, very good. So even if we have this inclination, does God want us to do it? No. But He gave us this inclination, okay. Doesn't mean He wants you to do it. And He wants you to act on it. Use Iron Mike. Is Mike Tyson as an example. Yeah, Mike Tyson got accused of rape and went to jail. Right, went to jail for a number of years. Now, they put him on the stand. I don't know why. Right, I don't know why they put this guy on the stand, but they put him on the stand. And he basically said, She was in my hotel room at 3 a.m. Like, what do you expect? Everyone knows I'm an animal. Guilty. Guilty. Yeah. So what? Just because you're an animal doesn't give you the right to do whatever you want, no matter who you are. Right? And he got convicted. Very good. Should have got convicted. Yeah. That's not what she wanted, unless she was lying or who knows what. Right? He got convicted. So even if he's got an inclination, a very strong inclination, so God says, I want you to control it. I want you to harness it. Right? Torah can make somebody like that, I'm not going to say into an angel per se, but can harness these qualities, can harness them. Doesn't mean the desires go away. They have to be used in the right way. Right? Now, even, we don't believe necessarily in predestination. We can make our own destiny. We have the power to do that. People are going to say, but doesn't God know past, present, and future? You may think you do this, do that. It doesn't end up happening. Okay. Right? Leah cries and cries and cries, and her eyes were soft. Why were they soft? Because everyone kept saying Rachel's going to marry Yaakov, Leah's going to marry Esau. She was destined to marry him. You see, it didn't happen though. That got changed for a number of reasons. Yeah. Dina, Yaakov hid in the box and he gets punished for it because he didn't want her to be with Esau. And if Esau would have looked at her, would have wanted her, he didn't want her for that. Right? Why? She could have made him better. Maybe she could have brought him around to do tshuva. Shouldn't have hit her. Yeah, that's very hard to understand. Someone who's scum of the earth, you want your daughter to marry them? No, I don't think so. But this person's a ruffian and this and who knows what, and she's gonna harness him in. She's gonna work on him, change him. The person would have to give his daughter for that? Why? It wouldn't be top of the list of people, that you want suggested for your daughter. But look what they could do, and this and that. True. Very true. And Yaakov's level, he got punished. Right? He got punished. Right? For that reason. For exactly that reason. He shouldn't have hidden her. But it's very hard to, a lot of these stories, very, very hard to understand. Simple explanation. And the reason is, this guy was scum of the earth. 100% he was scum of the earth. Got an obligation, let him look at your daughter and who knows what's going to be. And, because your daughter's very strong and could rein him in. Who said you got that obligation? Probably 100 other people you take first. You wouldn't take somebody like him. But Yaakov got punished. He got punished for putting her in a box. Exactly for that reason. Right? But again, simple explanation, very hard to understand. Very, very hard to understand. Yeah, so answer what if one's born into a cursed family? Right, so answer that. Why in the temple is a blessing answered with a blessing and not with amen? Yeah, so that's a good question. I have to look up. Let's see. 1 second. The Gemara says, see if I get an answer here. Out there, 1 second. All right, that'll have to look up. That'll have to look up. Not sure on that. Exactly. Someone asks, we're born into an environment and overcome it. Because obviously, again, Gemara, for example, being surrounded by homosexuals and all that, is it a problem? Is another test? Of course it's a test. Take someone like anyone's ever heard of, Nissim Black in his story. He grew up in a crack house. Essentially, he grew up in a crack house. Yeah, a lot of negativity there in many ways. Became a Christian, became Muslim, became Jewish. Whatever. It's a whole story, but it's a test. For sure, it's a test. Person grows up in a messed up family. Test? Sure, it's a test. Right? There's no question about it. Right? That's what they're. I mean, again, it's not their only test, but something like that, you're not in control of. Right? Since you're not in control of it, you have to say you're put in that. Why are you put in that situation? Because God wants you there. God's putting your soul in a specific body. Why? I can't answer, but the simple answer would be because God feels that body and that environment can help that soul reach its potential. That's the reason. So, of course, if you're born in a certain body to a certain family, that's your test for being part of that family. You don't have a choice, as we said before, right? I'm not going to rehash that, but as we said before, you're born against your will, you die against your will. Kaufman would say in parentheses, you still have to live. You still absolutely have an obligation to live, but you have no choice. So then what's the point of being born in a messed up family? Any number of reasons. Person to overcome it. Person to, draw either good things out of it or help other people who are in similar situations. But God feels that that soul was best in that body. Why? Why in this body, in this family, and these siblings and all that, why is that going to help this person reach its true potential the best way? God knows. Right? I can't answer that. Why are we born in different regions as a child? Again, a person goes to certain places for whatever reason. We don't necessarily know why. Sometimes we connect the dots. My own life, the only dots I really can't connect are going to Chile. That I don't have an answer for at all. Right? I'll probably never figure that out. Other things I have a good idea why. Potentially have a good idea why. Had to go here, go there, go, different places. But, just like, Jewish people had to travel in the desert, take out spiritual things, in each place they went. Right? So too, sometimes we have to travel around, meet different people, have different connections for any number of reasons. Right? It could be a lot of different reasons. There are stories of people that, lived in, like, let's say, the middle of nowhere, moved around and different things, but they came in contact with people when they were younger that helped them. They were able to help them when they were older in different situations. So we don't, why a person has to move around a lot, I can't answer. I don't know. Don't know. Some people, it's contact with someone I went to high school with many years ago. This person, like, hasn't gone, hasn't gone too far at all. The last 20 years, like, worked for the same company, lived in the same place, like, pretty stable. Pretty stable. My life is pretty unstable. Yeah, in many ways. But, this person, will call it as, as Richard Cunningham would say, it's humdrum, right? It's being humdrum. All right, kind of boring. Okay. Why do people end up only in one place? Or not far from where they grew up or whatever? They weren't meant to see the world. They weren't meant to, for whatever reason. They weren't meant to go to these places. Why? Because that's not what the soul needed. For some people, they need travel. I don't know. They need, even if it's only in one country, they need to travel. They travel different places. For what reason? I don't know. It's child knowing that these things are bad. Yeah, the problem is, what's good and bad today? What's the definition? So kids growing up, the parents should tell them, yeah, you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that, right? This isn't a good thing to do. That's not a good thing to do. You get education from the parents, right? But, what about what goes on in society? There's a lot of peer pressure, tremendous amount of peer pressure. And today, what's permissible and what goes on is very, 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 very different, certainly than when I grew up, back in the day, right? It's a whole different thing. It's a whole different world today, right? In a lot of, in a lot of different ways. So, people have a basic instinct of what's right and wrong. They have a basic instinct, but that gets skewed along the way. Kids are notorious bullying people, doing other things, maybe just for the sake of doing it, peer pressure. But deep down, if you were to ask them, is this a good thing to do? Forget about God, forget about, all that. It's a good thing to do. Should you be doing it? Now, at the end of the day, some people may just have their values messed up. And they may say it's not, it's not a problem. It's not forbidden. It's not this. It's, I can do whatever I want. Okay, that wasn't the question. The question is it good? Is it something that's bad? No, the person deserved it. I'm right. That's not the question. Right? Fundamentally, people know there are things that are good and things that are bad. The problem is they get skewed because who says really bad? Values get skewed. And plus also what society says. So, our basic values of good and bad, they should have. They should have. But, today is very different. Today is very, very different. And how others don't see it. That's pretty simple. They don't want to see it. Anyone want to see what they do is wrong? Nobody wants to see what they do is wrong. Some people don't care. Some people say what they want, do what they want. They don't care. They don't care the repercussion. Yeah, why don't they see it? They don't want to see it. They want to do what they want. Whatever their desires take them. That's what they want to do. Bottom line. Wherever the desires take them, that's what they do. So, is it in our DNA? Again, no matter how a person's born, they have a certain DNA. But guess what? They see things in their house. They see things at school. They see things outside. So it's not a question of what's in their DNA per se. It's a question of what the evil inclination tells us. We'll get convinced of all kinds of things that may not be good for us because of any number of reasons. Right? Some people, yeah, they may, their DNA may be different. And they may see things very different, but based on a lot of different things, not just their DNA. Because even if a person, let's say, was born a certain way, it doesn't mean they have to act on it, doesn't mean it has to come out. It can be used in other ways, right? But the problem is if it's nurtured the wrong way, a person born in a crack house, they're probably also going to be a crackhead, probably lucky to be alive by the time they're 20. Yeah, it's probably by most people in such a situation. A person lives in an abusive house, it doesn't mean that they're probably going to be abusive later. Could be, right? Because they see it, not just, it's not necessarily in their DNA, but they see it, right? And it gets nurtured because they see it so much. It's also part of it. There's a lot of writings of Tanakh about sleep. That a person falls asleep during the day at odd times. Yeah, the Gemara says a person shouldn't, a king sleeps in the middle of sleeps till, late during the day. Gemara talks about that. The Mishnah in Pirkei Avos chapter 6 talks about minimizing sleep. Right, definitely minimizing sleep. Rambam says a person get 8 hours of sleep a day. I think, a lot of people do that, but they should, right? Keep the body healthy. That's what I would say on that. Somebody asks, what small steps can be taken to overcome anger? One thing can be, for a person has to know what triggers it. You have to know what triggers it. Then, once you know what triggers it, then you have to figure out, okay, how am I going to fight against it? How am I not going to be triggered? How am I going to answer it, per se? Right? What am I going to do to answer it? Keep it in check. So we have to figure out what annoys us, what bothers us. Now, some people, everything bothers them. So they get, 10 extra doses of anger, right? So you got to see what bothers a person, what in reality bothers them, and then see why it does bother them. Right? Now, one way to do it, people will say, before you react, right, take 10 deep breaths. But, I would say, what's the word? I would say intellectually, it's a bad thing. So we always say there's a head to heart disconnect. The head may know the right thing to do, so you got to role play. If this happens, how am I going to react? Or figure out what gets a person angry. Now, if a lot of things get you angry, figure out what the source of it is. Might not be so easy. It might be, might not be so hard either, right? Maybe it's a common thing what annoys you. What gets a person angry. Or, one thing to keep in mind as well is we're not always on our game when either we're not feeling well or we're tired. So that throws things out of whack also. In other words, the person could do something and act, let's say, in an angry way, but, they would have acted that way in general had they not been overtired, right? Or sleep deprived or whatever, right? They wouldn't have acted that way. So you got to see what triggers it. Then you got to see, let's say better. Why, what situations gets a person angry, right? 3-step process. What gets you angry? What triggers it? And then figure out ways how not to do it, right? I would say role play, right? This person says this and this person does that. How are you going to react, right? But you got to think about also how bad it is. The Gemara says that if a person gets angry, that even if the pit of hell was underneath them, they'd still be angry. In other words, they lose control. You never answer a person when they're angry. Usually you never answer them because they're not rational, right? A person can think of it that way. That when they get angry, they're not normal. They're not rational, right? Takes them away from doing the right thing, right? So I would say, like anything else, person wants to be proficient in the laws of Shabbos, you got to learn the laws of Shabbos. You want to be proficient in the laws of Lashon Hara, you got to learn the laws of Lashon Hara. Want to read the ways of the righteous on, the gate of anger? Good thing to do. See how severe it is. But again, I gave you a 3-step process, right? Understand, what in this situation makes the person angry, what triggers it, and then, you try and figure out ways, how to fix it. That's what I would say. Somebody says Houston traffic. Yeah, I can say that about Boston traffic. Say that about traffic in a lot of places. Yeah. Yeah. But it's kind of funny in a certain way that anyone who travels to work, you get stuck in traffic. That's just that's just part of it. It's just part of it. People go, different places, they go to Jerusalem, whatever, it's traffic, right? And here, what's the best part of the car? It's the horn, right? And if someone's not moving in front of you, of course you're gonna beep, right? And so even if they can't move, you still beep, right? And whatever, it's happened today. Bus drivers all the time do that. So even if you want to sleep, you might get jerked around, you get beat, not so easy to sleep on a bus either. But yeah, and the way people drive also could be, a whole thing also. But but again, it's a question of what triggers a person, and then how can they deal with it? How they're gonna make it not trigger it. So if it comes out, she won't feel that bad. Okay. Connect Megillus with last week's parsha. Why? What's last week's parsha have to do with it? I know all pasuk except 8 start with a vav. The last parsha, everything that occurs is sad. And only 8 that don't start. What has to do with anything? What in the world has to do with the book of Esther? Yeah, what's the connection to the book of Esther? So what? All of the verses except if the 8 start with a vav. Yeah. And so that has anything to do with the book of Esther, or what does that do with the book of Esther? Yeah, and only 8 that don't start are, say, happy verses. Okay. Yeah. So what's the connection? Right? What's the connection? Yeah. It's a lot more, but still in the middle of toilet. All right. Yeah. When you have something more clear cut, let me know. Somebody asked, I did something on Sobs about Lashon Hara. I didn't realize there are laws of not doing it. There, gotta learn that on your own. I don't cover it. Laws of Lashon Hara. Right. I'll tell you a scary story. Maybe brought this down. The laws of Lashon Hara, there are more than 30 prohibitions in one shot. So I'll tell you, right? Yosef spoke badly against the brothers, spoke Lashon Hara against his brothers, right? Seemingly about what his brothers, some of the things his brothers were doing. Right? He brings a story, and he says that we learn one of the verses that someone who speaks Lashon Hara, because the next verse talks about a dog, says that it should be thrown to a dog, right? Someone who speaks Lashon Hara should be thrown to the dogs, right? And seemingly that's the punishment. But there are more than 30 prohibitions in one shot. So Rebbe tells a story of somebody during the war, told them that whatever, he told he had an 8-year-old brother during the war. His 8-year-old brother was killed by the Nazis in Machshamon, Vizichron. How he was killed. They threw him to the dogs. Dogs ripped him to shreds. Saw it in front of his eyes. Yeah. So Rebbe points out, maybe a person will think twice before they say something negative against somebody else. Punishment is you get thrown to the dogs. So whatever he says that person got to be careful. Again, his 8-year-old brother wasn't liable here, right? It's no level of liability. It's a kid. Maybe that's what the soul had to go through, like everyone else who died, sanctifying God's name. Okay, but he's saying a person who speaks Lashon Hara gets thrown to the dogs. So he said this was very graphic. But he says, to stop people from speaking badly against others if they made it really graphic. Like, you get a pack of wild dogs and like that's it. So, maybe stop a person speaking Lashon Hara. Megillah, Esther all start with a vav except for 8. That's all different, whatever. Ask me about another time. No, I'm not going to get into it now. Yeah, any other questions? All right, I'm going to stop here. I do this every Sunday, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 4 o'clock. Israel time next week probably won't be a class because of be in between lighting the candles. I probably won't have a class next week, but if I don't, I'll put it up there. Otherwise, anyone wants to contact me, you can find me on Facebook, Michael Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Converts and Judaism, orthodoxconvertsandjudaism.com, Beyond Orthodox Converts and Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on Q&As, ethics for our fathers, Pirkei Avos, Book of Leviticus. You want to send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN